The human stepped cautiously off the landing platform, taking in the view of the twin moons hanging low over the horizon. The planet, a soft swirl of lavender and mint green, shimmered under the light of the suns. Trees with translucent leaves swayed gently, making a soft chiming sound whenever the wind passed through them. Birds, or something like birds, glimmered midair like tiny lanterns, their wings catching sunlight in bursts of gold. The human, whose name was Kai, adjusted the straps of the exploration backpack and let out a deep breath. They had been traveling through uncharted star systems for months, but nothing had prepared them for the first meeting with the Nyari. Kai had been warned that the Nyari were unlike any other intelligent species. Twin-born by design, they lived in pairs, their lives and personalities intertwined from birth. Each pair had an almost telepathic bond, expressed not in words but through subtle gestures, facial expressions, and the melodic tones of their vocalizations. What humans might call purring, they used in various tones to convey curiosity, amusement, or even mild annoyance. Kai had studied them academically, but seeing them in person was a different kind of learning entirely. Ahead, two figures emerged from the violet-tinted grass. They moved in perfect harmony, their steps mirrored as though one shadow reflected the other. Both were humanoid, but their cat-like features immediately drew Kai's attention. Slender, flexible bodies, tipped ears atop their heads, and eyes that shimmered like liquid amber. Their tails flicked in sync, signaling attention and focus. One stepped forward slightly, the other remaining a half step behind, as if guarding or perhaps testing the human. "Miri Tiri," one said in the soft, melodic tone of the Nyari language. They sounded like wind chimes through a gentle breeze. Kai bowed slightly, unsure of the exact etiquette but hoping that basic gestures of respect were universal. "I am Kai. I come in peace. I wish to learn from you." Both Nyari tilted their heads, their tails flicking with what Kai guessed was cautious interest. Miri, the one who had stepped forward, watched intently, her amber eyes studying every movement. Tiri, a near-perfect twin, seemed more reserved, her gaze soft but curious. Kai reached slowly toward Tiri, feeling a sudden, irrational urge to pet the soft fur at the base of her ear. Humans were tactile creatures by nature, and Kai had always found animals soothing. Tiri let out a soft trill, leaning into the touch. Kai smiled, thinking they had been accepted. That was when Miri stiffened. Her tail snapped sharply, ears flattening slightly against her head. She let out a low, purring growl that was unmistakably different from Tiri's gentle trill. Kai froze, heart racing. They had not anticipated that choosing one twin over the other might have consequences. "Tithe," Kai stammered, unsure how to explain. "I didn't mean to," but Miri had already stepped closer, her movements precise and deliberate. She pressed herself against Kai, tail curling around his wrist, and gave him a pointed look. Then she let out a series of sounds that Kai quickly realized were a kind of scolding. Kai blinked. "I apologize." Miri's ears twitched sharply, and she let out a short, melodic hiss. That was enough to make Kai's stomach twist. Tiri, who had been enjoying the attention a moment before, now backed up, pouting slightly, her tail swishing in disappointment. The twins' bond was delicate, and Kai had unwittingly disrupted it. Kai raised their hands slowly, a universal gesture of peace. "I didn't mean to upset you. I can try to fix it." Miri considered this, her golden eyes narrowing slightly. Then she stepped back, but her tail flicked in a way that Kai interpreted as conditional approval. She circled him slowly, studying every inch of his posture, his expression, even his breathing. "You must understand," Kai said, trying to sound confident, though their nerves were buzzing. "Humans, we express affection differently. I don't mean to favor one twin over the other." Miri's head tilted, ears quivering. The human's explanation seemed to register, but her eyes still held the same intensity of accusation. Tiri finally stepped forward, brushing lightly against Kai's arm, a subtle sign of forgiveness. Kai reached out to pet her again, this time gently and only after noticing Miri watching. Miri's reaction was immediate. She hissed softly and stomped a tiny foot, which sent a ripple of vibrating purrs through the grass. Kai froze once more, heart pounding. It was clear the situation would not resolve itself. Human gestures alone would not suffice. They needed a deeper understanding of Nyari twin etiquette, and fast. Kai glanced around the open field. The air was alive with a quiet energy, a sense that the planet itself was observing. Tiny orbs of light floated lazily near the tall grass, reacting to the tension in the atmosphere. This was a world that valued harmony, connection, and understanding. It would not forgive ignorance easily. Miri circled again, her movements slow and deliberate. She paused in front of Kai and tilted her head, giving him a look that made him feel both scrutinized and oddly appreciated. Then, almost imperceptibly, she reached out a hand, brushing a finger along his sleeve. A gesture of invitation or challenge, Kai could not tell. Kai swallowed and nodded. "I will do my best. Please teach me." Miri's tail flicked, and she let out a soft trill that sounded almost like laughter. Tiri mirrored her, the two in perfect synchrony. The momentary warmth was quickly interrupted by a sharp turn from Miri. She stomped, and the sound resonated like a warning. It was clear the human had not yet earned full trust. Kai tried to read their expressions, noticing for the first time the subtle cues that defined Niyari communication. A flick of the tail meant impatience. Ears tilting forward meant curiosity. Ears flattened meant displeasure. Vocalizations held layered meanings depending on pitch and rhythm. It was overwhelming, but Kai was determined. Humans had thrived in unfamiliar environments before. This was just another challenge. The twin pair began a slow walk toward the crystalline river that cut through the grassland. Kai followed carefully, making sure not to step too close, not to get too far behind, and to mimic the gentle rhythm of their movements. The twins occasionally exchanged glances, their communication silent but intense. At the riverbank, Tiri knelt and dipped a hand into the water. The liquid shimmered and rose slightly, forming delicate arcs that caught the sunlight. She motioned for Kai to try. Hesitant but willing, Kai reached into the water, letting the coolness wash over their hands. The twins watched closely, eyes gleaming with amusement. Kai laughed softly. "This feels amazing. The water almost sings." Miri's ears twitched, a soft vibration in her throat indicating acknowledgement. She leaned slightly closer, watching intently as Kai tried to mimic Tiri's delicate gestures, forming small arcs and shapes with the water. The twins' expressions shifted subtly, curiosity now mingling with their earlier annoyance. Hours seemed to pass in this way. Kai learned to read the tiny signals of the Niyari, adjusting gestures, tone, and posture accordingly. Every misstep, every accidental favoring of one twin was met with a flick, a trill, or a soft hiss. Every small success, a mirrored movement, a synchronized laugh, was rewarded with a ripple of purrs and a gentle nudge. By sunset, Kai was exhausted but exhilarated. Miri finally sat cross-legged on the grass, tail wrapped neatly around her legs, and tilted her head. Tiri, equally relaxed, leaned against her sister. Both let out a long, melodic trill that Kai could only interpret as approval. Kai let out a relieved laugh. "I think I'm starting to understand." Miri's eyes softened slightly, ears perking up in a gesture of cautious satisfaction. She reached out and brushed a finger against Kai's cheek. It was a small gesture, but it spoke volumes. The twins had accepted the human, not fully, but enough to allow them closer to start building trust. As the suns dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Kai realized that this planet, these beings, were teaching more than just alien etiquette. They were teaching patience, empathy, and the importance of seeing the world from perspectives entirely different from one's own. And somewhere deep down, Kai felt the stirrings of a bond that went beyond curiosity or research. It was a connection built on understanding, laughter, and the delicate balance of attention and care. But as Kai settled down to rest near the glowing riverbank, a faint flick of Miri's tail reminded them that the journey was far from over. Her eyes, still bright and sharp, promised that more challenges lay ahead, lessons in humility and cultural respect that Kai had yet to fully master. The human closed their eyes for a brief moment, letting the alien sounds, the chimes of the leaves, and the soft purrs of the twin sisters wash over them. Tomorrow, they knew, would bring more tests, more laughter, and perhaps a little more jealousy, but Kai felt ready. If humans could survive the void of space and the isolation of uncharted planets, surely they could navigate the complex, delicate world of Niyari social bonds. And somewhere in the distance, Tiri purred softly, brushing against Kai's arm again, as if to say, "We will teach you and you will learn, but only if you pay attention to both of us equally." Kai smiled. They were ready for the challenge. Kai woke to the soft, tinkling sounds of the translucent leaves swaying in the gentle morning breeze. The twin moons were gone now, replaced by the warm glow of the rising suns. The lavender grass shimmered in gold light, and the air was filled with a quiet hum, a subtle vibration that Kai had learned to recognize as the planet itself welcoming the day. But as Kai stretched and rubbed the sleep from their eyes, they immediately noticed the tense posture of Miri. The taller twin was crouched slightly, tail coiled tightly around her legs, ears tilted back in that unmistakable gesture of displeasure. Tiri, on the other hand, was calmly grooming herself, completely ignoring the human for now. Kai froze, heart sinking. Something had clearly gone wrong overnight. They had thought that yesterday's careful attention to the twins had restored balance, but it seemed Miri had other ideas. "Good morning," Kai said cautiously, hands raised in a gesture of peace. "I hope you slept well." Miri's ears twitched. She tilted her head, studied Kai silently for a few seconds, and then let out a low, melodic growl. It wasn't dangerous, but it was enough to make Kai's stomach twist with guilt. Tiri finally looked up, purring softly, but even her soft trill was edged with curiosity, as if asking, "What now?" Kai hesitated, realizing that the twin dynamic was far more complex than anything they had prepared for. Humans were adaptive, yes, but empathy in human terms was often straightforward. Apologize, explain, move on. Nyari emotions, however, were layered, subtle, and highly performative. Kai knelt carefully in front of Miri, mimicking the gestures they had learned yesterday. "I did something wrong?" they asked softly. "I don't mean to upset you. Please teach me what to do." Miri's tail flicked sharply, a sign of irritation, but then she leaned in just slightly, brushing her finger lightly across Kai's wrist. It was a tentative gesture, one that suggested she wanted him to engage, but on her terms. Kai nodded. "Okay, I will learn, I promise." Tiri stepped closer, her amber eyes shining. She gave a small trill and pressed lightly against Kai's side. This gesture, Kai quickly realized, was meant to encourage him. Tiri was the forgiving twin, the one who softened Miri's moods, and right now she was trying to help the human navigate the delicate waters of twin etiquette. But as soon as Kai reached out to stroke Tiri gently, Miri's reaction was immediate and dramatic. She stepped forward, ears flattened, and tapped Kai's shoulder lightly with a clawed fingertip, not to hurt, just enough to get his attention. Then she circled him once, tail swishing, eyes narrowed but not unkindly. Kai exhaled. "Right, focus on both of you equally, balance, not favoring one over the other." Miri seemed to consider this, flicking her tail in a slow, deliberate motion. Then she let out a short trill that sounded almost like a chuckle. Tiri mirrored her sister, and for a brief moment, Kai thought they had reached an understanding. But then Miri moved quickly, nimbly darting between Kai and Tiri, gently but firmly blocking his reach. She gave him a sharp look that said plainly, "You will not repeat this mistake without acknowledgement." Kai raised their hands in surrender. Okay, I understand. I will follow your rules. Please teach me." Miri's ears twitched, a sign that she accepted the words but not the actions yet. Then she began what Kai would come to know as the Nyari apology exercise, a ritual that was playful, exhausting, and very precise. The ritual began with Kai kneeling in the lavender grass, head bowed slightly. Miri and Tiri took positions on either side, tails flicking in synchronization. Every movement Kai made had to be mirrored by subtle gestures, purrs, and vocal tones that reflected understanding, humility, and attentiveness. "Right, mirror, purr gesture," Kai muttered under their breath, trying to remember all the instructions from yesterday. They reached out to touch the grass gently, forming arcs that mimicked the twins' motions. Miri leaned closer, ears perked, watching every line of his body. Tiri's soft trill was encouraging but teasing, as if to say, "You're doing okay, human, but not perfect." Hours passed in this delicate dance. Kai learned to anticipate subtle cues. The tilt of an ear meant speed up. A flick of the tail meant pay attention to both of us equally. A low trill meant repeat that gesture with more humility. The twins occasionally exchanged looks, their communication almost imperceptible to an outsider. But Kai was determined to follow their lead. Humans were adaptive, and this was another kind of challenge, one that required patience, observation, and humility. By mid-afternoon, sweat beaded on Kai's forehead, not from heat, but from the mental exertion of constantly interpreting alien signals. Miri, though still strict, began to allow brief touches, small acknowledgments of progress. Tiri, ever the gentle twin, encouraged these gestures with soft purrs and playful nudges. Kai laughed softly, realizing how absurd the situation might look to an outside observer. Here they were, a human kneeling in shimmering lavender grass, performing intricate gestures, mimicking alien sounds, all to apologize for the simple act of petting the wrong twin first. Yet, despite the absurdity, it was profoundly rewarding. The twins' bond, delicate and intricate, had drawn Kai into a new kind of understanding. It wasn't just about apologies or etiquette. It was about connection, empathy, and respect. The Nyari had a depth of communication that humans rarely experienced, and Kai felt honored to be part of it, even as a novice. Around late afternoon, Kai was allowed a short break. They sat by the river, dipping hands into the cool, crystalline water. Tiri curled up beside them, tail brushing against Kai's arm, purring softly. Miri remained slightly apart, tail coiled neatly, eyes narrowed but observant. Kai turned to Tiri, smiling. "You're so patient, thank you." Tiri let out a soft trill, brushing her cheek against Kai's arm, a gesture that felt like gratitude. Then she flicked her tail toward Miri, as if to say, "Be patient too, sister." Miri's eyes softened slightly, ears flicking forward. Kai caught the hint and offered a careful nod. The human was learning the rhythm of the twins' interactions, the give and take, the subtle negotiations of attention and care. As the suns began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange, pink, and lavender, Miri finally approached. She stepped slowly, deliberately, until she was just a hand's length away from Kai. Her ears twitched as she studied him, eyes bright with a mix of curiosity and lingering irritation. Kai held their breath. This was the moment of truth. One wrong move, one misread cue, and the fragile progress of the day could be undone. Miri circled once, then stopped, tail flicking lazily. She extended a hand and touched Kai's shoulder lightly. The gesture was small but significant. It was acceptance, tentative but genuine. Tiri let out a soft trill of approval, brushing against Kai as well. Kai exhaled in relief, smiling. "Thank you, both of you. I really appreciate this." Miri's ears twitched in acknowledgement, and she stepped back slightly, giving the human space. The lesson was not over, not entirely. There would be more tests, more rituals, and more learning, but for now, progress had been made. The twins then began to play, darting through the grass in synchronized movements, leaping lightly and creating ripples of color as their tails swished. Kai watched, fascinated, and then joined in, moving cautiously, mimicking their playful gestures. The twins laughed, a series of melodic trills that filled the air like a song. Hours passed in this joyful practice. Kai learned not just the rituals of apology, but also the joy of shared activity, the bonding that came from play, and the subtle art of timing and attention. Every gesture, every trill, every mirrored movement deepened the connection. As night fell, the twin moons rose again, casting silver light across the grasslands. The air was cool, soft with the scent of alien flora, and the twins curled up on either side of Kai. Miri, who had been so strict and vigilant all day, pressed lightly against the human, a final gesture of forgiveness. Tiri purred softly, her tail brushing across Kai's arm, the rhythm steady and comforting. Kai felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the suns or the moons. It was the warmth of connection, understanding, and mutual respect. Humans had always adapted, survived, and thrived in the face of challenges. Here, on a distant world, faced with a culture completely alien yet rich in subtlety, Kai realized that humanity's greatest strength was not technology or strength. It was empathy, curiosity, and the willingness to learn. And as Kai drifted to sleep, with Miri and Tiri curled close and the alien night whispering softly around them, they knew that tomorrow would bring more challenges, more lessons, and perhaps a few more moments of jealousy. But they were ready. Because humans could not only survive in the stars, they could understand, connect, and even thrive among the most unusual, the most alien, and the most extraordinary of beings. And in the quiet of the night, Kai felt a small purr against their arm, a reminder that trust had been earned, but it was fragile, playful, and entirely alive. The morning light spilled over the lavender grass like liquid gold, waking Kai slowly. They stretched, feeling muscles sore from the previous day's exercises in patience, balance, and alien etiquette. The twins, Miri and Tiri, were already awake, perched elegantly on a crystalline hill that overlooked the shimmering river. Their tails twitched in unison, ears upright and alert. Kai sensed immediately that this would not be a quiet, easy day. Kai took a deep breath. Yesterday had been difficult but manageable. They had learned the basic gestures, the tail flicks, the subtle trills that communicated approval or annoyance. But Kai quickly realized that Miri had planned something more elaborate today. "Good morning," Kai said cautiously, raising hands in a gesture of peace. "I hope I can make today better." Miri tilted her head, ears flicking sharply, and let out a short trill. That trill, Kai had learned, was not mere acknowledgement, it was a command. It meant, prepare yourself, you have work to do. Tiri purred softly, brushing against Kai's leg as if to say, we will help, but only if you try hard. Kai swallowed and moved forward. Today's task, they quickly understood, was the formal apology ritual, a complex series of gestures, mimicry, and vocalizations that, according to Tiri's soft trills, could last for hours. The ritual began simply enough. Kai knelt in the grass while Miri and Tiri circled, tails flicking and eyes bright with anticipation. The first step involved mirrored gestures. Every movement Kai made had to match the twins' motions precisely, dipping arms in the air like ripples, twisting slightly at the waist, or tilting their head at exactly the same angle. Kai mirrored Tiri first, carefully, and was immediately reminded why balance was crucial. Miri's ears flattened briefly, tail flicking sharply. Kai froze. "Right, both of you equally," they muttered under their breath, adjusting their posture. Hours passed in this way. Every misstep was met with a subtle but firm correction. A tap of the tail, a gentle but insistent nudge, or a trill that sounded like a question and a reprimand at once. Kai felt themselves sweating, not from heat, but from the sheer concentration required. Every fiber of attention had to be on the twins simultaneously, interpreting gestures and subtle expressions while performing the ritual flawlessly. During a short break, Kai knelt beside the river, dipping hands into the cool, crystalline water. Tiri came immediately, brushing a soft cheek against Kai's arm in encouragement. Miri remained slightly apart, tail coiled like a spring, watching and analyzing. Kai laughed softly. "I feel like I'm in a dance I don't fully understand," Tiri purred. Miri emitted a soft trill, one that sounded almost like laughter but edged with warning. Kai understood. You're doing better, human, but perfection matters. The next phase of the ritual involved vocal mimicry. Humans rarely had fine control over alien tonal languages, but the Nyari had designed the ritual to train Kai's empathy as much as accuracy. Kai had to mimic purrs, trills, and melodic tones in exact sequences, matching pitch, rhythm, and subtle inflections. Every mistake was noticed immediately. Miri's ears flattened, Tiri's tail flicked sharply. Kai concentrated. "Trill, rise, purr, lower, flick," they whispered under their breath, eyes fixed on the twins' movements. Miri tilted her head, eyes narrowing slightly, and then let out a quick, sharp trill. Kai realized instantly they had misread a gesture. He started again, slower this time, paying attention to every nuance. Hours blurred together. Kai's muscles ached. Their throat grew hoarse from the alien vocalizations, yet they persisted. This was more than a test. It was a lesson in patience, humility, and observation. Humans thrived on challenge, and Kai felt their own adaptability shining through, even under the scrutiny of two highly intelligent, playful aliens. Miri then introduced a new element, storytelling gestures. Kai had to tell a story of their own life using only movement, expression, and alien vocal tones, all while keeping the twins' attention. Every subtle flick of a tail, purr, or ear movement indicated approval, confusion, or curiosity. Missteps were corrected immediately by a mirrored motion from the twins, demonstrating exactly what they expected. Kai began hesitantly, mimicking the rhythmic arcs of the Nyari gestures they had learned. They wove a tale of traveling through space, visiting distant planets, and learning the unique ways of each species. The twins listened intently, eyes bright, tails swishing in rhythm. Midway, Kai noticed Miri's tail flick sharply, displeasure. They had unintentionally favored a human gesture over the twin-approved motion. Kai froze, corrected the posture, and restarted the segment. Tiri gave a soft trill of encouragement, pressing against Kai's side gently. It was subtle but meant everything. The human was improving, though still far from perfect. By late afternoon, Kai was exhausted but exhilarated. Sweat dripped from their brow, muscles ached from constant motion, and their throat felt raw from trilling in precise sequences. Yet there was a joy in the challenge, a connection forming that transcended words. Humans were adaptable creatures, and Kai felt pride in navigating this entirely alien form of communication. Miri's tail flicked sharply. Kai froze immediately, recognizing the signal, final phase. The twins now wanted Kai to perform simultaneous attention, interacting with both at once, balancing touch, gestures, and vocalizations equally. Any favoritism, even subtle, would undo hours of progress. Kai knelt in the center, eyes scanning both twins. They reached out slowly, placing one hand on Tiri's arm, the other near Miri's shoulder. Tiri purred softly, leaning into the touch. Miri, however, stiffened. Her ears flattened, tail twitching, eyes fixed in what Kai interpreted as playful challenge. The next hour was a whirlwind of motion. Kai had to mirror both twins' gestures at once, adjust pitch and rhythm of vocal tones, and remain aware of subtle cues indicating approval or correction. Each flick of an ear or tail, each trill, became a critical signal. Kai's mind raced, yet a strange calm settled in. Humans had always thrived in complex environments, and this was just another adaptation test. Suddenly, Miri darted forward, pressing against Kai's side with a soft trill. The message was clear: you must give me attention too, or fail completely. Kai laughed, realizing how playful yet serious the twins could be. Balancing both was like performing on a tightrope, but they were determined not to falter. Hours more passed in this delicate dance. Kai lost track of time, absorbed entirely in the ritual. Tiri occasionally nudged their arm, Miri occasionally tapped their shoulder, correcting missteps with precision. The sun began to set again, casting long silver shadows over the grass. Kai felt utterly drained, yet strangely joyful. They were learning, truly learning, the art of empathy, attention, and cultural respect. Finally, as night approached, the twins ceased their movements. They sat cross-legged in front of Kai, tails coiled neatly, ears upright but relaxed. Tiri let out a long, soft trill, brushing lightly against Kai's arm. Miri emitted a low, purring hum, pressing gently against his other side. Kai exhaled, relief flooding their body. They had survived the ritual, hours of careful observation, mimicry, and balance, and more importantly, had earned a tentative trust from the twins. Did I do it right?" Kai asked, voice trembling slightly from exhaustion. Tiri purred, a rhythmic, soothing vibration. Miri tilted her head and let out a trill that sounded almost like laughter. Kai laughed softly, collapsing into the grass, feeling a warmth that had nothing to do with the suns or moons above. The twins curled around Kai, forming a soft, protective cocoon. It was not dominance or ownership. It was trust, playful and alive, earned through attention, humility, and empathy. Kai realized that this lesson went beyond apology. It was about understanding, connection, and the human capacity to learn from beings vastly different from themselves. Kai closed their eyes briefly, letting the alien night wash over them. The twin moons rose, casting silver light across the shimmering grass. Tiri pressed lightly against Kai's side, tail brushing gently, while Miri leaned her head against Kai's shoulder, purring softly. For the first time, Kai felt what it truly meant to be accepted, not just tolerated, not just acknowledged, but fully recognized and trusted by a species so alien, yet so remarkably intuitive. Humans had always adapted, survived, and thrived. And here, among the Nyari twins, Kai realized the full power of that adaptability. The ability to understand, connect, and even flourish within a completely foreign culture, learning its rhythms and respecting its delicate rules. Tomorrow, Kai knew, would bring new challenges. Perhaps another ritual, another test of patience, or a playful prank from Miri, reminding him that trust was never permanent but something to nurture. But for tonight, the lesson was complete. Humans could not only survive in alien worlds, they could learn, connect, and even earn the affection of beings whose culture and form of communication were utterly foreign. And as Kai drifted into a well-earned sleep, the twins curled around him like living guardians, their purrs a lullaby in an alien night. He had survived hours of meticulous apology, navigated the subtle art of Nyari communication, and discovered that the human strength was not brute force or technology, but the ability to learn, empathize, and connect, even with creatures light years from home. Kai's last thought before sleep took him fully was a simple one. Humans could adapt, humans could thrive, and humans could earn the trust of anyone, even twin alien cat girls who demanded hours of meticulous apologies for a simple act of misplaced affection. And somewhere, deep in the mirrored amber eyes of the twins, He felt a spark of approval, a promise of more lessons, more laughter, and a bond that was just beginning to grow. Kai woke to the soft, golden light of dawn spilling across the lavender grass. The twin moons had disappeared, leaving only the pale light of the two suns. The crystalline river shimmered gently nearby, reflecting streaks of pink and orange across the ground. Today felt different. Yesterday had been exhausting, filled with hours of apology rituals, mimicry, and careful attention to the twins' moods. But this morning, something in the air suggested progress. The twins, Miri and Tiri, were already awake. They sat atop a gentle hill, tails coiled neatly, ears twitching with alertness. Kai approached cautiously, hands raised in the universal gesture of peace. The twins had tolerated his mistakes, but there was still the question of whether today would be a continuation of discipline or the beginning of true acceptance. Miri tilted her head as Kai came near, ears flicking once sharply. Her tail flicked back and forth in a measured rhythm. Tiri, as usual, let out a soft trill, brushing her cheek against Kai's arm. That small gesture felt like an invitation. Today, perhaps, they would allow him to participate more fully in their world. Kai knelt, taking care to mirror their posture exactly. He had learned over the past days how to pay attention to both at once, reading ears, tails, eyes, and purrs simultaneously. It was exhausting, but also exhilarating. Humans were remarkable in their ability to adapt, and Kai felt the evidence of that adaptation coursing through every careful movement. The first challenge of the morning came immediately. Miri darted toward Kai, pressing lightly against his side and emitting a short trill that demanded attention. Tiri mirrored her movement on the other side, purring softly but watching closely. Kai understood instantly. He was to interact with both twins equally, balancing gestures, attention, and vocalizations in a delicate dance. He began slowly, reaching out to both twins simultaneously, brushing their shoulders gently, matching the rhythm of their tails and ears. Miri stiffened initially, but Kai remembered to adjust, his movements careful and deliberate. He mirrored the soft trills that Tiri made, then attempted the more challenging melodic tones that Miri demanded. Hours passed as Kai performed this delicate balancing act. There were moments of tension when Miri's ears flattened or her tail flicked sharply, signaling a misstep. Each time, Kai corrected himself immediately, slowing down, adjusting posture, and ensuring that neither twin felt overlooked. Tiri's soft encouragement made the task slightly easier, her presence a constant reminder that forgiveness and patience were part of the twins' nature. Kai laughed softly at one point, realizing how strange the scene must have appeared to an outsider. A human kneeling in glowing lavender grass, performing precise gestures and mimicking alien sounds, all to maintain a delicate balance between two playful alien sisters. But he did not care. Every moment was a lesson in attention, empathy, and adaptability. Midday arrived with the suns high above, casting long reflections across the crystalline river. The twins suddenly changed the pace of the ritual. Miri darted forward, performing a sequence of intricate gestures that Kai had not yet mastered. He followed as best he could, feeling the pressure of doing everything perfectly. Tiri mirrored her sister, guiding Kai with gentle nudges, soft trills, and careful alignment. By late afternoon, Kai's muscles ached, his throat was hoarse from vocal mimicry, and sweat had collected on his brow. Yet there was also a sense of triumph. Every small misstep had been corrected, every misread cue adjusted. The twins had tolerated and guided him through hours of playful but exacting rituals. It was exhausting, yes, but it was also exhilarating. Humans had always thrived in challenges that demanded patience and intelligence, and this was no exception. Then came the final phase, the shared play and bonding ritual. The twins stood side by side, tails flicking, eyes bright. They darted through the grass, leaping lightly, performing arcs and spins that Kai had learned to mimic. He moved carefully but confidently, keeping pace with both, copying gestures, matching vocal tones, and occasionally laughing when one of the twins performed a particularly playful trick. Miri leaped high, spinning in the air with her tail extended gracefully. Kai followed, adjusting mid-motion to ensure he mirrored her movement precisely. Tiri bounded to his side, brushing against him and purring softly. Kai realized that this was the true culmination of the past days. Trust had been earned not just through apology, but through shared play, attentiveness, and the willingness to adapt fully to their world. Hours of this bonding passed, and finally the twins slowed. They curled around Kai, tails entwining with his arms and shoulders, ears upright but relaxed. Their eyes met his, shining with warmth and trust. Teary purred continuously, while Miri pressed her cheek gently against his shoulder. Kai exhaled, feeling a warmth that went beyond physical comfort. He had earned their trust, not through force or argument, but through empathy, patience, and understanding. Humans had always survived in harsh environments by learning, adapting, and connecting. Here on this alien world, those qualities had proven invaluable once again. As night approached, the twin moons rose, casting silver light over the lavender fields. Kai sat quietly, the twins nestled against him. He had learned their gestures, their tones, and their rhythms. He understood now that human intelligence was not just in problem-solving or technology, but in the ability to observe, empathize, and adapt to entirely alien ways of life. Miri let out a soft trill, tapping Kai lightly on the shoulder. Teary mirrored her action, pressing a cheek to his arm. It was a silent message. He was now part of their world, welcomed fully, with the playful bond that had been denied him at first but earned through effort and understanding. Kai smiled, watching the twin moons rise in unison. Their soft glow reflected in the river, creating a path of shimmering silver. The twins twitched their ears and flicked their tails, signaling that it was time to rest. Kai lay back, feeling the gentle weight of the twins against him, the rhythmic purring a lullaby of approval and friendship. In the quiet night, Kai thought about everything that had happened. He had arrived as a visitor, curious and eager, but unprepared for the complexities of Nyari twin culture. He had made mistakes, upset one twin, and struggled to balance attention. But through careful observation, humility, and persistence, he had earned trust, connection, and laughter. Humans had always thrived by learning from their environment, and here their adaptability had once again proven their greatest strength. The twins shifted slightly, Miri curling closer, Teary pressing lightly against Kai's side. Their tails intertwined with his arms as if sealing the bond. Kai felt a deep sense of gratitude for the lesson, for the trust, and for the reminder that connection could cross even the vast distances of space and species. Hours passed peacefully. Kai drifted in and out of light sleep, feeling the rhythmic purring of the twins, sensing the soft vibration of the planet beneath them, and marveling at the depth of communication and emotion that could exist in beings so different from humans. The Nyari had shown that empathy and attentiveness could bridge any gap, and humans, adaptable as they were, could thrive in ways that were not just physical but emotional and cultural. The next morning, Kai awoke to laughter. Miri and Teary were already at the riverbank, performing intricate patterns in the water with gentle arcs of their hands. Kai joined, moving fluidly, perfectly in rhythm with them. No missteps, no corrections, only harmony and shared joy. The twins' play became a lesson in unity and balance. Kai laughed aloud, feeling lighter than ever. He had not only survived the rituals but embraced them, learning a new language of gestures, sounds, and empathy that transcended words. Humans could adapt, humans could learn, and humans could connect even with the most alien of beings. By sunset, the bond was clear. Miri and Teary pressed against Kai in a circle, tails intertwined, purring softly in a melody of trust and friendship. Kai felt a surge of pride and warmth. This was the human strength in its purest form, the ability to listen, understand, and become part of something larger than oneself, even on a world entirely unlike home. Kai looked up at the twin moons rising over the horizon, casting silver light across the lavender fields. He knew that tomorrow would bring new adventures, more challenges, and perhaps new lessons in empathy. But he also knew that humans had a capacity for connection, patience, and adaptability that could thrive anywhere, even with alien cat-girl twins who once demanded hours of meticulous apology for a simple act of misplaced affection. He smiled, feeling the soft weight of Miri and Teary pressed against him. Their purrs were a lullaby, their tails a bridge, their trust a reward earned through respect and effort. And for the first time, Kai understood completely. Humans were not only explorers and learners, they were friends, capable of crossing the boundaries of species, culture, and expectation. Kai drifted into sleep, cocooned by the warmth and trust of the twins. Their soft, melodic trills mingled with the gentle night sounds of the lavender planet. For the first time in days, he felt fully at home. not just on this alien world, but in the delicate balance of connection, understanding, and mutual respect. And as the twin moons glimmered above, Miri and Tiri curled closer, purring in perfect harmony. Kai smiled in the dark, knowing that humans could thrive anywhere, not just through technology or strength, but through patience, empathy, and the simple, extraordinary act of understanding another being.